Good morning. Good afternoon is even better. There you go. So we all know that something magical happens when we put a CPA together with a financial advisor. I'd like to welcome advisors and advisor teams who work with CPAs and advisors who are putting their trust in us to help them find that right partnership. I also want to welcome CPAs and professional alliance members who are either here with us today or are viewing this on a recast. Thank you all for being here. You know it's a big part of our value proposition. Our name is a description of what we do. We integrate partners together for the betterment of our clients. So we have a really, really special team today. But we think back to last year and who was with us. We had a gentleman named Mark Koziel. Then he was the president of Millennial Global. You might remember that's the second largest association for CPAs in the country. Since meeting with us, he has been elevated to the role of president of the AICPA, which makes him one of the most influential people in accounting today. We are just so glad to have him. And I do want to take a second to recognize my teammate, Clint Mills. Clint, can you stand up? So we talk about, everybody loves Clint. We're going to be back at Millennial this year, representing Integrated. That was a dream that we had 25 years ago. We're going to be back at the AICPA. We're going to be back at MGI. We're going to be back at Headwaters. We're going to be at so many state society events representing Integrated. And our reputation has just gotten that big, and we're so excited about that. And just as important as having Mark Koziel, the president of the AICPA, are our two guests today. Because when I think of them, I think of humility, because they just came in and they got the job done at a time that we needed it done, and perseverance, right? Because at Integrated, we really honor our history. We think about where we were and where we are today. I mean, it was just reflected by all the great presenters that you've seen throughout this event and all the hard work that you do. And we take that history so seriously, but they're trailblazers. They're people that innovate, whether it be what we're doing with AI or in 1999, when we were looking for our first CPA to join us, who was Becca's dad. He not only helped us get things launched, he brought us Becca. Didn't she kill it yesterday, by the way? Let's go. So that was our first Joe. Our second Joe is Joe Sabelli, and we're just so thrilled to have him there. And the two of them have been innovators. They did something when nobody else was doing it. When the AICPA passed in 1999 that CPAs could receive fees and commissions, there was a lot of doubt. There was a lot of competition. There was HD Vest, First Global, Terra Financial. We were just a small group in a big pond, and we fought hard, and we had earned people's trust, and Joe really put it out there for us. So let me start off by giving an introduction to my two friends. Start with you, Joe. So Joe is a unique CPA, and let me tell you why Joe is so unique. Because he started in a small firm just a little bit north of Boston, a town called Peabody. He started that firm with his wife, Terry. And they just did a magnificent job. They made that small firm into a large small firm, or a small mid-sized firm. And they did something that a lot of firms have done, right? They sold to a large regional, where Joe kept a seat at the table and really was an intricate part of the leadership of a large regional firm. Then they sold to a national firm. Joe has been an ambassador of our program. He talks to your CPAs, your prospective CPAs, and tells them, as nobody else can, what that experience as a practitioner was. And then he matched up with Nisham Mutafian. Now, there's a lot of things that I have in common with Nisham Mutafian. First of all, He's Armenian. I'm married to an Armenian. Second, we both went to the same college, Humboldt College, a little bit north of Boston, called Salem State University.
Go Vikings.
There you go. Let's go Vikings.
That's right.
And you know what? Nishan just had incredible work ethic. He was a disciple of Ray and Paul, and we both share them both as mentors. And he did it the integrated way from the beginning, and that really reaped some rewards. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But you know what? We're so proud when we see your name up there as one of our top advisors, because you were with us from day one, and we're so proud to take this time today to honor the both of you for your contributions to our CPA Alliance. So with that, why don't I ask you, Nishan, tell me a little bit about the advisor that you were up until the point that you met Joe.
Sure. So I started in the industry back in '92. My sales manager was Paul Sagany. So for better or worse, the reason why I'm here is because of Paul. And at the time when I started off, the whole idea was I wanted to be referral based. I wasn't cold calling. That wasn't what I did. I'm not a seminar person. So for the first few years, it was hard. I mean, getting referrals, but it's what my practice was at the time. And then when the whole idea of bringing a CPA into a partnership, I really gravitated towards that because I could see CPAs bringing me to a different client base that I didn't have access to from my referral sources that I had. So I went from working with people who kind of looked and smelled like me. They were 25, 30, 40-year-olds, works for a company, married, have a couple of kids, and what their needs were, to now working with business owners and their planning needs. So it really was, it took me from here to there when it came to my practice.
So I'm sure there's a lot of advisors in the audience today that would want to know, how'd you meet Joe?
So we had mutual clients. My office at the time was in Newburyport, mutual clients. I kept reaching out. I took him to lunch at the Wardhurst once. Right. We had some lunch, talked about it, and then for about 6 or 8 months, I was calling about once a week. I kept being blocked by his most excellent assistant, Susan, who is now, she's a friend, client now, and finally, he again agreed to sit with me and ask, what is it really that you guys are doing? And when we really went through it, we brought John in, and then it went from there. But really, we had just had mutual clients, and it gets back to when you're talking to clients who are your advisors, and then being able to reach out to them. So it took some time, which you'd expect once you get to know Joe. Jumping in with 2 feet's not exactly his forte, but once he gets in there, he's in there. So, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, perseverance. Yeah. I too was blocked by Susan.
Many people have been, yes.
She's a good gatekeeper.
The best.
Joe, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about your progression as an accountant before you met Nishan?
Well, that's a story in itself. I actually started out in private industry. So I worked 10 years in private industry. And at one point, the company was doing very well. It was a high-tech firm doing extremely well. And started to hit some bumps in the road. And those bumps in the road turned into, we need an exit plan. And we sought out a buyer. We found a company out in the West Coast to acquire us. So we ultimately ended up selling them off to a public company. At the end of it, they came and they said, you intend to stay? And I'm like, I'm done. Like 10 years of this, I'm done. And at the time, Terry had already started the practice. So it was really her practice that got started. And I think it was her and an admin person that she had an ad in the paper for a staff person. I picked up the phone and I just said, I'm going to apply for that job. And that's actually how I started. And, but it was a long road because 10 years of private, you now need to work 3 years for somebody. Didn't go over well when I submitted my application that my 3 years was working for my wife. So they pulled me into the board, make sure I knew my stuff, and they did finally issue my license. From there, the firm, we started to grow it a little bit more. That's where our affiliation with DGC came along, where we needed certain expertise. We would reach out to them, and they were just very similar in how they approached their client base. So working with them for a number of years, I could see a possible merger or acquisition. And they have approached us, actually, and asked about what was happening in their firm as they would sort of lost that small business group. And they said, we really need to kick off a small business group. They said, we would like to take you as a platform and build off of that. So we went there, and I think I took a 4-year window where I said, I'll phase out over 4 years. So in those 4 years, they grew it to about 40 people inside the small business group. So after 4 years, Terry and I were out. But it was a great transition. We worked very closely with the partners there. We were able to continue to use IFP and Nishan, and we've gotten referrals from them. DGC has since gone on and been acquired or merged with PKFOD. So that's after I left.
So that's a big industry trend that we're just seeing these smaller firms get gobbled up and just kind of move up the chain. Do you think that's going to continue?
Everybody I'm talking to is struggling. Well, the small firms are struggling. They're struggling for help. They're struggling with the technology and trying to keep up with everything. And I'm seeing more and more. And what I'm also hearing is the hours, the expectation of the hours as we were going through is not what they're going to be finding people willing to do. And
I think not.
I don't think so. So that's tough.
So then let's set the stage. It's 1999, and CPAs can now just went green light. You can receive revenue. I'm sure that some of the same things, I mean, you were so ahead of the curve, Joe. We're still hearing the same objections or concerns that you had in 1999 today. What was going through your mind as a pioneer, as a CPA that was offering the service?
It's really two things. The very first thing, and more important than anything, is I'm not seeing my clients being well represented out there by the planners. That we were just sending stuff out, and there was virtually nothing being done, worked with these clients. So we just take the portfolios. Sometimes they come back and they would liquidate the portfolios. We'd have these tax implications, like what in the world is going on? So the ability now to take it in-house, have some control, and to work with somebody, that was, that's a home run. To know that there's a bench behind us in terms of, more complex issues. We had that I enjoyed. And obviously, the compensation that you can derive out of this was a perfect exit strategy for me. I knew that I wasn't going to be a CPA into my 60s. So my idea was if I can shut down the CPA stuff by 60, and then I'm not a type of person who can stop. I just need to keep doing something. So it's worked phenomenally well for me because I'm still bugging him every day or every other day. I'm in the office with him, and it was a perfect transition.
So I have a few questions, but one of the biggest objections that we have are CPAs want to be altruistic. They don't want to get paid. And I know you have a strong feeling on that. Can you share what your thoughts are?
I never look at the money in terms of what I'm going to make. I look at the service I'm providing, and I look at, have we done a good job? And have we done a service that's over and above what the other firms would be doing? And if you do the right thing, why shouldn't you be paid for it? It's no different than doing my CPA work or this type of work. So the money just never drove me, honestly. And I think I said it to you. We never look at the numbers. If we do the right work and do a good job, the numbers just follow. They'll come.
It's a great answer. So don't chase money. Do what you do well, and money will chase you.
Absolutely.
And you said something else that I think is extremely relevant, that, hey, you know what? You saw that there wasn't a lot of great advisors. And you know what? Integrated is in the business of making great advisors.
Absolutely.
And we love being great together. Paul always says if you drew a circle around your office, 10 miles in diameter, how many good well, that's actually becoming an issue too, but how many good advisors are there, right? and we usually never get over 10%. Do you think that's a fair number?
I do. I don't see the training that they're going to get as they do here. I mean, the training is phenomenal. As I said, that I'll call it the bench. You know, we had a sizable liquidity event in one of our clients, and we looked at each other and said, we need some help. And Ray was right there for us. Yep. Worked with us through that liquidity event.
That's the intro song.
I know.
Had some help. Well, let me ask you, when you needed some help, who are some of the key people, and you can both answer this question, that you would call on from the team that would help you then and even today?
Yeah, I mean, from the very beginning, Ray was always an integral part. Paul was also part of it when we were, so that team, Derek involved, and as the firm has grown, and you know, our practice has grown. Now, you know, Billy's a huge part of the work we're doing now. We had this huge liquidity event for some clients about 3 years ago. He was a big part of it. We've talked with Rich Austin a few times. So we definitely, I know what I know, I know what I don't know. And I know that there are people who are infinitely more educated about some of this stuff than I am, whether it's the planning, whether it's the software or whatever, and that's what we're doing. Yeah, so that's how.
You know, and that's one of the, when I was complimenting you in the beginning, I think that you've done a great job of being close to our case design team.
Yep.
Joe, how have you seen Nishan grow as an advisor throughout your relationship?
Gosh, we're almost like twins now. It's kind of frightening.
Guys, really?
I will sit in on a meeting and I'm about to say something, and he says it for me. And it goes both ways. I've learned a tremendous amount from the financial side, but he's grown tremendously, I think, from a business perspective. I think he thinks, you know, much more than just a portfolio. It's the business, it's what's all around that comes into his mind now. And I've seen a tremendous change that way.
And how important was it for you to have that confidence in the group, and also your advisor, the confidence to put them in front of your people, of your clients?
I mean, I'm not going to tell you it wasn't an overnight thing.
I know it wasn't. I appreciate the honesty.
Yeah, I mean, you need to believe it, you need to see it. But I knew pretty quickly I was working with somebody with really high integrity. That is always the most important. I never heard anything about money was never an issue. It was always, let's just do the right job. And then, you know, the ability to get to Ray, and there were occasions way back at the beginning, you know, we pick up the phone, call Paul.
Right.
Paul, we need some help. And Paul, sure, what can I do?
We're still doing it now,
today. But I
Yeah.
mean, that was it for me. I said, you know, these guys are all well in.
It's great. So systems equal confidence, confidence equals profitability. And I know we spoke to a bunch of advisors that are in new relationships. They're like, hey, it isn't catching fire right now. I know one of the things that you did was you moved Nishan into your office.
Absolutely.
Tell me how that impacted you, and then I'm going to ask Nishan, you know, how big of a leap of faith was it to move? Nishan actually moved in full time.
You know, as I got to know him and really started to, you know, realize the value of the service, I wanted to talk to him every day. I wanted him to be a part of the team, and I wanted him almost to learn every client that was in my firm. And not only the client, but every staff and every manager and every accountant in the firm, so that if he's got a problem or a question, he's going to go to Steve or to Chris or whoever else is in the firm, and he was accepted in as if he was just another member of the team. And it had a big impact. I mean, our outings obviously included him. I mean, he was just another one of our, you know, members. It had a big impact.
That's great. Yeah, no, I think there was a direct correlation with your success and the two of you being together that much. Mm-hmm. How about you?
It brought a new level of the work I was doing. You know, sometimes it's that out of sight, out of mind type of thing, and where we saw each other every day. You know, if he needed something, instead of picking up the phone, at the time my office was on the ground floor, he'd come down, or I'd come up, or whatever it may be. If they had a client in there and they wanted to just pick my brain for something, I'd be there. So it really became a huge part, I think, of our success, which was, and the interesting part about it, which really came when they moved from Sabellian Company to DGC, was some of our clients were calling and asking me if I was leaving, right? They're going, well, what's happening with you? And I'm going, nothing. I said, I don't work for Sabellian Company, I work with them. So for a lot of clients, they literally saw us as together, as I worked for Sabellian Company. Compliance-wise, I don't, and I never worked for them, never. Never took a check, nothing like that. In bags, in the trunk of my car. Sounds like that really happened. But yeah, it was huge. And Joe knows I have some other CPA relationships where I am not in their office, and it is very different. It's very different.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
So there was no cash exchange. That's
None,
good to know.
none that I am willing to admit to.
All right. Nisha, can you give the audience an example of a client or a case situation that you said, this was my aha moment. I belong here, and this is really making an impact on my life and my quality of life and my income.
Boy. Well, I guess I'll go back to, we had a client, young client of ours back originally. He's a business owner, pretty successful. And so we did some personal planning for him and some business planning for him. And then he introduced us to his dad. His dad worked for, so we lived north of Boston. He worked for a local company that I knew of, was actually in my hometown. And so we got to know him. We got that he was a client. So we were, every year we could literally track and see how our revenue was increasing. I mean, it was obvious. You could see it going up and it wasn't just this, but this is kind of an example of how that relationship turned into something like really large. So about 4 years ago, this company had a huge, it's a privately owned company, they had an ESOP, they had a huge valuation where their stock value went up about 120% in one valuation. So you had people going from having this much money to having this much money. And all of a sudden there was this exodus to retire. And so because of that positioning that we had had with our client's dad, we were there. We were in position to pull some of these clients, some of these people leaving as our clients. Immediately made a phone call to Billy. Billy was there. And in about 2 years, we brought in north of $60 million just out of that retirement event. Now, we don't see any more of that coming because I think whoever's left has left. But it was huge. Yep, go ahead.
So you pulled in north of 60 million off of one complex client.
Yep.
No wonder why the two of you drive around in Porsches.
We can't afford a hybrid, so we go there.
There you go. How about you, Joe? When was the moment for you that you said, hey, it clicked, or the connection with the client that you saw that things were going your way?
Again, everything in our business is servicing that client and always trying to do what's best. And I did have a client, I'll say old school, in a cash business.
That means Italian.
So the very first thing was the cash goes in the bank. Right? You got to get them on board with that. And I did. I was able to get them to agree. All the cash goes in. Otherwise, we can't work together. But that was it. It was cash. And slowly, we introduced to him a retirement plan and a 401. And if you put a profit sharing plan on top of that, this is what we can do. And your wife's involved. Let's put your kid in here. Let's get him working here. Next thing you know, you're blowing out a pretty good number each and every year. And then we're talking about the retention of his employees who are participating and saying, hey, this is a great company. All of a sudden, I got this nice 401k. So 20 years later, Nishan and I are at his kitchen table, and he says, I'm going to retire. I think I can retire now. Can you guys show me? And he's more than able to retire. He has managed to save quite a bit through the retirement, plus other things that we've done for him, real estate and all. And he says, I want to give my brother the business. So he wasn't even selling the business.
Wow.
He said, my brother's been working for me for years. I want to give him the business. Am I okay? And we sat down and we showed him he's never going to run out of money. He got up, comes over to the two of us, and he gave us the biggest hug and a kiss. And he says, this would have never happened without you guys. I just want you to know
impactful.
that. It was like the best ending to a day. It
Well
really
done.
was. It was a great story.
And I'm sure when they all retired, that all rolled over to you guys.
It did, yeah.
Of course it did.
Yeah.
That's weird. That's great. Well, that's a great story. That's a real success story. You know what?
It felt
That's
great. It
doing
really did.
well by doing good.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So we've got a few minutes left. You know, you two you've just got 25 years of experience plus. What's your advice? We've got great advisors out there. Nishan, what could you tell an advisor that's in a relationship that isn't quite going the way that they want it, or just about to get into one, or is thinking about it? What advice could you give?
I mean, I've had some conversations in the past with people just starting to get into the business, and my first recommendation to every single one of them is there's two. Don't do things by yourself. Find another advisor to work with, and the second is find a CPA. It is the two most impactful people in my professional career, not my personal, my professional career, is Paul Saganey and Joe Sabelli. I wouldn't be where I am today. I might be, but let's say I'm not, without those two. And I am such a believer in the CPA part of it. If you're working with one now and it's kind of bumping along, take advantage of the resources you have at IFP. What's your name again? John and his team are, yeah, it's right there. John and his team are super helpful with that. They'll get in it, they'll roll up their sleeves, they'll help you, they'll give you the tools, and so that you can hopefully make that relationship successful.
But it's hard.
It is, it's not
Right?
easy.
It's not easy.
It's getting, and I say this to him all the time, so he's not gonna get offended by it. They're not us. They don't necessarily always think like us, and getting them to start to have those thoughts and getting them over that hurdle takes a lot of effort on your end to get them to do that. But you have to put some time and effort into it. It's not, you sign them up and all of a sudden, the checks start rolling in. Absolutely not. It takes work on your end, helping them mind their clients, giving them ideas, that weekly phone call, that BIM report, whatever it is that you have. You really got to push them, and once it starts, then it really starts. Especially when they start seeing the commissions and the trails and all that. We don't really do commissions anymore, but the trails, they see it. That light goes off. But you got to work at it. If you don't, a couple of not successes and it's 6 months and it's still bumping around and you just kind of do this with it, it's not going to work. You got to give it 100%.
Thank you. So it's hard, but perseverance, stick with it.
Yeah, yep.
Joe, what about you? What advice do you have for CPAs that are watching this, or the advisors that are working
Sure.
with CPAs?
I would say to the advisors, understand that client relationship with the CPA is really tight, and some of them go back 10, 20, could be 30 years. So to step into the role of an advisor, you need to make sure that it is in partnership with the CPA. The CPA can't get ripped out of that relationship after 1 or 2 meetings. He should be there, and until that partner says, you can run with this on your own. I mean, it's 30 years, I still meet with the clients.
Yep.
I mean, I never dropped out of those meetings.
Yep.
I still do. And, I will say there's a couple here and there where,
Now, I don't know.
he may say, look, you don't need to come in
He's
for this
retired.
one. A little more, but I think, honestly, make sure that that CPA comes along with every step of the plan. Because two things are going to happen. He's not going to lose the relationship, because that's one of the things, is it's going to feel like he's losing a relationship in some
Sure.
way. But if he participates in that, then he buys into the plan. And all of a sudden, it's his plan and the planners. It's not the planner saying, hey, here's your solution.
Right.
He's got to buy into it. He's got to understand it. And once he does, all of a sudden, what's going to click is he's going to say, ooh, this will work for so-and-so. Let's get going on that. This is going to work for this client. And then it just cuts the flow after that.
So Joe, to paraphrase, keeping the CPA involved will help the advisor be a better guest in the CPA's house, and will help
Absolutely.
build that relationship.
Yeah, I mean, all the meetings were still held at the CPA firm. Well, in our case, it had to be, but
Yeah.
I would recommend it, as long as he's okay with it, continue. Because remember, the relationship exists with the CPA. That's the comfort zone.
I know it's a little
So
bit
bring it there.
tough too with Zoom, but whenever you can get that connection, I think you're right on. So,
Just one more quick thing, sorry.
sure.
He would sit on the other side of the table.
Yes.
Oh, he would sit on
So-
the client side.
The client
of the table.
side, exactly. So it was, we'd already gone through the case, we already knew what was coming, but he'd sit on that side of the table, so they're saying, he's not with him, he's with us. And I think that was super impactful.
That's a good point. So
Yeah.
there's an implied validation of the relationship, but there's also visual that you're on the side of the client.
Right.
Oh, yeah, and I would hammer the shit out of him with
Yeah.
questions.
You would hammer the.
Yep, that's
There
how
you
one
go.
swear. No
That's how
more,
one-
that's
sorry.
how
There
one
you go.
swear.
But I'm working with Billy. Billy will tell you too. He's a pain in the neck.
He wouldn't use that word.
Well,
No,
if I
probably not.
could, you two really help us get the program in its infancy, and you were important people at an important time. And, you're the best at integrated, and certainly the best of America. And when you are the best of America, there's a word for it, and I think we all know what it is.
That's right.
Bostonians.
That's right. That's right.
And when you're a Bostonian, thank you, there's a lot that you have to overcome, right? Cold weather, right? We got snow, sometimes airport delays.
Yep.
And then there's other things that you have to overcome, right? I know this hasn't been mentioned yet today, so I thought it was important that we did.
Yes.
It's a lot of late nights, right?
A lot of
it's
work.
It's just a lot of championships. I mean, I know that the Celtics are probably going to win another one this year. And I know it's a lot. How did you guys deal with that?
I mean, everybody thinks this is easy,
I know.
but this is.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work to stay up late at night. I know most of you don't understand this, but it's the late nights. It's the parades. I get sick of these
Duck
nonstop
boats.
Duck
parades.
boats. You got
boat
duck
parades.
boats everywhere.
I'm sick of duck boat parades.
Right.
But we do it.
And you do it so well,
We
guys.
do.
Yeah.
We're
Love
very
it.
humble.
And we love it.
There
Very
you go.
humble.
We do love it.
Well,
Very
listen, Joe and Nishan, on behalf of the entire integrated family, we thank you.
Thank you.
And we're just so grateful for everything you've done to be with us all these years. We don't take it for granted for a minute.
We know we didn't do it alone, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.